Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the Icarus Idea. Thank you so much for listening. Today we're talking about biomimicry, about soft robotics, and we're also going to talk a little bit about fishes. And then now comes in the tune. So we're sitting here in a very small, well, let's say decent sized office at the University of Delft. And as always, my name is Joris, and we always have your boy Jean as well.
Hello. But we have a guest too. He started with video editing. Then you got interested in product development. And after that, he won actually the Bridgestone World Solar Championship by designing the most practical car.
Yeah, the most practical solar car, right?
Yep. And after that, he changed his directions and got interested in soft robotics. And you designed fish. And that's the reason why we're here. By the way, you're looking for a job, right?
Yeah, I just graduated, so.
You just graduated. Welcome, Sander. Sander van den Berg.
Sander or Sander?
Sander.
What are we going to do?
It doesn't matter. If you pronounce it kind of Englishy, then it's going to be Sander.
Sander.
And that's also how I always
Introduce yourself.
try to explain my name in English, because everyone always looks like, what's your name? Like, I'm like, sanding machine, like, Sander.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
That's a good first impression, I guess.
I'm a sending machine.
Yeah, I can't make anything better out of it. Like that's it. If you're gonna pronounce it in English.
Right. We'll go for a mixture of Sander and Sander then. Right?
Yeah.
Cool. Everyone that's listening, thank you so much for listening, first of all. And secondly, thanks for the feedback. We got a lot of feedback for the first episode, and we're using that to improve ourselves and to make this podcast more soothing for you. Especially the most important thing, we got some professional microphone setup type of things going on, so we can get that smooth, buttery, voicey sound into your ears.
You can even whisper in the microphone.
All right. And then I think it's just time to start again, right?
Yeah. Puntje of the month.
Punch of the month.
We're kind of like discussing whether the Puntje of the month is a good name for this this type. So we're asking you to drop a name, or just say like Puntje of the month is awesome because it's half Dutch, it's half English, and it's strange, and that's good. Yeah. But first, explain what Puntje of the month is.
Yeah, Punch of the month. We explained it last episode as well, but just for anyone that's new, real quick. Me, Joris, Jean, and our guest Sander have all come up with a Punch of the month. And a Punch of the month is just something we find interesting and that might have been new or in the news lately or whatever. Just something that sparked our interest. And then we throw it in a group and we see how it can relate to, for example, industrial design. So that's the thing. Jean, what have you come up with this time?
You said that it was something new, but I've got something old-fashioned. Actually, it is used nowadays a lot. Have you ever heard of the Hoberman sphere? No, it's like a toy. It's like a sphere, like a round thing, and the sphere is like from a transformable design. So when you pull it, then the sphere will become 3 times or 10 times as big as it was. And Hoberman is actually a guy that studied at Harvard, and he's doing a lot of things with transformable design. And the cool thing about it is that I was looking at your LinkedIn page when we were stalking, and I saw something like it's called the Morphing wings. And it's what I really liked.
I've seen those as well.
You've seen it as well.
That's why we saw it.
Yeah, that's why we saw it.
Did I like it on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Is that the reason? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like it? I'm actually pretty curious.
What did you like about it? Right?
What did I like about it? So instead of that, you like now have like the backside of a wing of a plane that moves separately, upwards or downwards, and you get
the
kind
flaps,
of
right?
the flaps. You get a sharp edge, and that's not ideal. And this one does that all internally, and you get a really smooth surface curve it's majestic.
It looked really cool. But I wanted to add to that those transformable designs, these is something else. But the one like the Hoberman sphere, those structures, it's like a bit more mechanical engineering, but you can do it like a lot with industrial design and strange forms and strange movements. But you can use it for a lot of cool things. For example, like they call it pop-up shelters, and those are like shelters that like explode. They're really like folded in each other, like small, and then they can like push it out, and then they become like really big. And that's what I found really cool. We will just add it in the notes.
Oh yeah, of course, we added in the
people
notes.
to see
But just to be clear, I thought when you described it like a sphere that you can transform, I was thinking of like Play-Doh kind of stuff, but it's a frame, right?
It's like a frame.
It's a frame, and when you pull on it, it becomes a bigger, larger
That
sphere.
toy?
Yeah, it's a toy.
It's like one of those
a toy,
toys.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I've seen. Did you see it on YouTube? You saw it on YouTube, didn't
Probably.
you?
Probably.
Yeah.
That's
I think I saw it there as well.
Yeah.
It's like this MIT Harvard teacher is earning money by making toys. Something like that.
Something
right?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I think you're next, Joris.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I actually got a tip because I didn't prepare my Puntje of the month on time. We are very professional here. I'm very sorry about that. Thankfully, though, we have an audio guy, Jens, the master of this whole production, and he gave me a tip. He saw something called the Bloodlamp. And it's funny that you started about spheres, because the Bloodlamp is a sphere as well. So imagine a sphere, which is probably some kind of matte white, and it's supposed to be a lamp, but it doesn't give light yet. With the emphasis on yet, because the clue is this sphere is filled with a liquid called luminol, and luminol is the stuff that they use in those CSI series to see whether there's blood somewhere, right? So they put some stuff on the floor, and it's like, ooh, there's blood here, because it starts lighting up. You see those weird purple or green lights, let's say stains, and then it's, wait, there's blood over there. So this liquid, luminol, is in this glass sphere. Now the point is, if you want to light the lamp, then you break the glass on top, and by breaking the glass or either afterwards, you have to put a drop of blood or some blood in the luminol. So you can put the sphere down on the table, you break it partially, probably only the top, because otherwise all the luminol is gone. Then you put some blood in it from yourself, probably, because where you're going to get some other blood. And then the lamp starts lighting. So then there comes light out of the lamp.
Pretty scary, I guess.
Yeah. Right? Well, it's a design by Mike Thompson. He's English, but he's based in the Netherlands, which is, fun fact. He's in the Netherlands. And the goal was to make people more aware of what it costs to use energy such as light. You know? So I think it's a pretty strong thing. You can actually use this only once, which is quite weird, because that's kind of counter what this point is, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it's kind of counteractive.
Yeah?
You want to use it for a longer time, and then it's like one use, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool.
It's cool, though.
Yeah.
It's really cool. What do you think, Sander?
I actually never really got these kind of designs. Like, that they get presented as design, they should have just presented it as an artwork.
Yeah.
Because
I agree with that.
nobody's going to see it as design, and the people who do see it as design see it as poor design. So you get kind of
Whoa.
But you get a misunderstanding of what design is.
Okay.
Because now it's more like a campaign kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's like one of those, you have more of those, like awareness creating.
Yeah, it's an awareness thing.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to buy it or place it somewhere. It's more like an exhibition thing or as a concept. Yeah, and I never really got these kind of designs.
You mean because it's not useful, or?
Maybe I think the place for these things are more into art than design. But of course, those things are really gray. Because maybe when we're going to talk about my project, a lot of people will think those that's more mechanical engineering than design.
Okay.
And I may partly agree with that as well. So lines are vague, of course, always. But like I studied in Eindhoven as well during my bachelor, and there they push a lot towards this kind of awareness, like slightly impractical things. But that's not why I wanted to study industrial design. I always wanted to study industrial design to make practical things that people like to use, and not just make them aware that something is annoying.
It was really mind opening for me, because I went to the Dutch Design Week last year, and I've never been to the Dutch Design Week, which I did not like. So I said to a friend, "So let's go to the Dutch Design Week." I went over there, but I was expecting a lot of industrial design and like bit more mechanical and like affordable and stuff like that, but it was kind of more design and not design engineering. It was really focused on design and how something looked like or how it was, but not like really practical.
Well, that's of course always a balance, you know. That's the whole thing with industrial design.
Maybe it's a little bit like high fashion. Like nobody's gonna wear those things. They're kind of more as inspiration and to kind of tease or something.
Ooh la la, we could do
because
this.
we have a lot of money.
Well, I think though that it's really nice that there's a message behind the design. Like compared to high fashion, I personally don't see a lot of message in that, but maybe there is. But with this lamp, there's actually a message. So someone is trying to convey something through a design, which I think might be nice. Like that's a good quality of a design. What have you brought?
Okay, so I brought actually a paper.
Okay.
So my paper is called Task-agnostic Self-Modeling Machines from Hot Lipson and Robert Kwiatkowski.
Okay.
And the cool thing is it's about robots that learn who they self are and not what their tasks are. So instead of like normally a robot knows, like you program the robot to pick something up, this one just has actuators and one sensor on its gripper. So it's a gripping robot. Okay. One sensor on its gripper that just shows where it is in space. And then it just starts to actuate all its sensors, all its actuators, to just see what it is, to let it learn what it is.
Okay.
And then it finds out what it is by just actuating and seeing how the gripper moves through space. So it makes a self model of itself.
Wow.
And by really well understanding what it is and how it moves, it can actually make much better and accurate predictions of like grabbing things. And the nice thing is that it can use those predictions to overcome a task that it never has seen before. So for instance, like if there would be a hole in the ground.
Yeah, okay.
So even for us, if you've never seen a hole in the ground, we have walked. We have seen that if you make a big step, you can go over the hole. In this model, it kind of does the same. So it knows really well itself and runs simulations of how it can overcome the hole. And then it executes that. So it's for a robot like similar to thinking. And it looks like it can overcome obstacles at first try. And that's really cool.
That's really cool.
That's pretty cool. But it doesn't learn a lot about himself, but also about his surroundings and the world.
Yeah, so
him, right?
it goes even further. So because it has such a well understanding of itself, it adapts for its own failure. So for instance, if one motor fails, it still knows what it's doing and it can still overcome its task.
Whoa.
So what they actually did during the experiments was halfway in an experiment, they changed they placed like a bent segment in the arm, and by moving again, it noticed like, okay, I'm now different.
Oh, whoa.
And it adjusts its own model.
Damn.
And the nice thing is that you get really robust models because, of course, in a normal robot, there's always some wear and tear. And because it's all pre-programmed, you need to recalibrate your machine constantly.
And it notices this decay.
Because it's aware of what it is, it can recalibrate itself constantly without actually really recalibrating.
So basically, the task-agnostic self-modeling.
So they describe it a little bit as a machine that understands itself
instead of just simply doing a task.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
So seeing itself separate from task.
But there's some proper AI behind that, I guess,
what
right?
makes it,
That's like scary close to human thinking.
Yeah. So I think the last sentence of the article we conjecture that the separation of self and task may have also been the evolutionary origin of self-awareness in humans.
Yeah, mind blown.
So they see itself as a kind of like step of the self-aware robot. And that's just beautiful.
If you want to know more, send us the link and we'll put it in the description of any...
Put the paper in the description.
Yeah, we'll put the paper in the description. Yeah. If you have any questions...
It's quite short. It's really readable.
Oh.
Okay. Nice.
Well, who would have thought?
An
article that's readable about AI.
It's really, really readable.
Oh, nice.
It's more like a short story than a really in-depth paper.
Okay.
We have also read your paper. No.
It's not a paper, is it? It's a thesis.
It's a thesis.
Like one of them big packs of paper.
There is actually still a paper coming, but it probably takes long.
Yeah.
Like more than a year, probably. Yeah.
Oh, damn. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it has to be like... People need to read it, and you get it back. Peer reviewing takes time.
You have to deliver quality and all that stuff. Yeah, it's terrible.
You've made a robotic fish.
Yeah.
And it swims through water with a speed of 0.85 meters per second.
Crunching down
and
numbers.
that has like one from the record that was already.
Yeah, so it's 27% faster than the fastest soft robotic fish.
Okay. Besides that, it only uses a single motor.
Yeah.
You used biomimicry to mimic the movements of a fish.
The flapping.
The flapping. And apparently that's more efficient than a normal propeller motor.
So there's two things we like to have clear. Soft robotics, which in my humble knowledge is you have a robot type of structure and you wrap it with a compliant material, so a material that can stretch or move or bend or whatever. Is that true, or am I a bit off?
It's a little bit broader, I think. But the general story is, of course, that it's soft and that it doesn't harm its environment. So it's really often pneumatic, or in some other way can deform easily. So the general idea is that instead of that, when it's rigid, it will just go against hard things, and so normal robotics generally doesn't allow people to work next side to the robot, and in soft robotics you can pretty much throw those things into an environment where it can be touched, it can interact with other people and things without any danger. So that's the general idea of soft robotics.
Okay, and then the key is, again, you have soft robotic fish.
Okay, so it's pretty much a robotic fish. It's maybe weird to hear, but there are like hundreds of robotic fishes. There are like lots of universities who research these things because they are potentially much more efficient than a rotor blade, so that's why it gets a lot of research. What they use now often is multi-link servos, so they put servos behind each other, and by controlling all those servos together, they can really make a really precise movement of the tail. But of course, if you have a lot of servos behind each other, you lose a lot of efficiency. So even thought the motion is much more efficient than that of a rotor blade. You lose so much internally and also in complexity, and you can't really go above a really high frequency, so you'll lose a lot. The thing where it works different than every other robotic fish is like a half compliant, half active segment. So we have one part that pulls left to right, and one part that's compliant. It's kind of a beam within silicon. that bends, and and we have a numerical model that kind of predicts how much it bends. So you know how much it bends based on the frequency and the stiffness of the material, and that way we can control really precisely how the caudal fin moves from side to side. It's really simple. It just pulls on wires from side to side, and that makes the tail oscillate from left to right.
I'm now curious how it can it move to the right and to the left.
Does it steer?
Yeah, originally we had a steering system put in, but yeah, as you may know, a graduation project doesn't take indefinitely. You have to end it somewhere. So we actually took the steering system out to just focus on speed. Also to show that we can optimize this system. So the speed thing was more like, okay, we can optimize it for efficiency, but let's optimize it for speed because that's just easy to understand for everyone. It's like, okay, it goes the fastest. Okay, it'll probably do well. Then.
It's funny. We were reading about the robotic fish on Dezeen.com or Dezeen.com, and there at some point it says Van den Berg states that his fish will be 100% more efficient than rotor-propelled fishes. Like,
yeah. So potentially the system is potentially is important. It can be a lot like just oscillating can be so much more efficient than rotation in small objects in water. It's a quote far out of context. Yeah. So, for instance, if you have a small motor for underwater drones, there are a lot of underwater drones are currently used in the oil industry, but also for future deep sea mining, which is going to be a really big industry. Yeah. What they now use, so they have a normal rotor propeller on it. They are generally like 40, maybe 45% efficient. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, the bigger the propeller and how slower it turns, the less it rotates the water flow, and the more efficient it is. So, for instance, for large ships like tankers and stuff, they're actually quite efficient. Like they're doing okay. But for smaller things, they are really inefficient, and you can't really improve that with rotor blades. So for smaller things, like even a small boat and underwater drones, and small is like still like 10 meters. So we're talking. Then like if you go smaller, it starts to get even better.
It's nothing. So 10 meters, that's nothing.
Yeah. So for them, like they get around 45% efficiency, and just the movement of going up and down, like what a fish does, and just basic oscillating fins, can get efficiencies of around 86% around there. Yeah,
that's like twice. That's literally twice as high.
That's just a comparison of movements. So the whole reason why we're still not applying this like everywhere is because it's so complex to create that motion in a really efficient way. And our system uses now one single DC motor, and
which is a very common thing.
Yeah, and it takes out a lot of complex mechanics that are normally in there, which gets us a little bit closer to a realization of this. Another positive thing about the oscillating is that when you go really deep, which for instance for these underwater drones, is that when you now go really deep, you get a lot of pressure on the rotary shaft. So because you have externally rotating thing, which is the rotor blade, and that shaft goes through that hole. So there is a gap. There's always a little bit of a gap. Yeah. And when you go deeper, there gets a lot of pressure, and you need to counter that pressure. So there's a lot of pressure on that,
small gap.
So you lose a tremendous amount of efficiency when you go deeper. And when you oscillate, you can actually really completely encapsulate it and counter all the pressure inside with oils. And so you lose a lot less efficiency when you go deeper. And then you actually go far past that 100% more efficiency if you go really deep.
Well, actually, we were wondering what might be, because what is very interesting is this efficiency, right? It might be hard to define, because of course we want to go to greener, whatever. That's all sustainable. Blah, blah, blah. Has to be green, has to be sustainable. But then efficiency is a very important thing. So what do you think would be other applications for this fish behavior? Because it seems really weird to me to have like a boat on the water that goes flap, 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 left, right with his tail or something.
So if you would do it for a boat, you probably need like 2 or 4 of them. So the boat doesn't go left, right.
Yeah.
If you have 2, you get pulsating. Yeah. So the boat will go faster, slower. And if you have 4, you can get a constant speed.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, because we also saw an octopus that has like 4 tentacles. I don't know how these things are called.
Yeah, I think I know the project.
Yeah, and that uses 4 of those things.
Yeah, and the cool thing was that one can use 2 of its tentacles to grab something and then keep on swimming with its other 2
wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's really cool.
Wow.
But then it starts going slower and faster again.
Yeah.
If it only uses 2
like
tentacles.
An octopus does.
Okay. Oh, yeah, just like a real octopus, actually.
Yeah. They use a real octopus actually uses jetting, so it doesn't actually use its tentacles to swim. It pumps in water and just spits it out at the end.
Okay, so it basically vomits water and then it goes forward.
You can see it like that.
It's maybe a bit blunt way to say it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's water.
A boat can do that too, I think. Used by mimicry.
Why don't we have boats like that?
That's jet propulsion, kind of.
Yeah. But do you really think that, for example, a boat with 4 fish tails behind it, flapping left and right, do you think that will work? Do you think that's a possible future for us?
It's gonna be in specific cases, because for now and probably for the near future, it's gonna be more complex and therefore more expensive. So it's that more efficiency needs to outweigh its extra cost and extra complexity, and that's gonna be in certain scenarios. For instance, now with those deep sea mining projects and those kind of things,
I can see that there's a lot of money.
They would win a lot if they could do missions where the underwater drone can stay underwater for much longer, which would be really beneficial. So then a little bit more efficiency, like even if it's just 1%, is worth it to spend a lot of money in.
1% might be 10 minutes.
For your boat or whatever, a more complex system, and it's going to be slightly more efficient, doesn't probably win you anything.
No, of course, you also need 4, as you just mentioned, which is
it's like it doesn't have to be in this precise manner. For instance, there's now a kayak, so like a canoe. A little bit, like kind of a canoe. With which you cycle on, and that one has those kind of fins that go left and right underneath.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but you mean just one fin going left and right?
Like two in separate directions.
Okay, so there's 2 vertical fins above each other, and they go in counter phase. They go left and right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just to make it clear to you.
Yeah.
You know?
And that actually makes you go a lot faster, and it's actually a simpler system than like a water bike, call it.
Water bike.
Yeah, water bike with the propellers.
Transmitting it to a rotor blade. So it's actually simpler in that case, and it's really efficient. So
it's kind of efficient also.
It's kind of an adaptation on how fish would swim. It's slightly different, of course.
What's also interesting now that you mentioned this, just regular flapping of the kayak. You with the fish, and your fish, you have chosen a specific type of swimming, right? Instead of just one rigid thing going left, right, just in a one axis type of thing, you have chosen a tuniform swimming. Now, tuni comes from tuna, which is like the big sea fish, right?
It's a whole group.
Yeah, you chose that fish, I believe, because it's one of the big fish in the ocean. And then the type of swimming...
The fastest fish.
Right? Yeah, one of the fastest ones. Yeah. So basically, that fish optimized its movement for speed. Is that correct?
In parts.
Ooh.
But not completely.
Okay.
No, now it's going to start the biology lesson.
Oh, that's nice. We want to talk about biomimicry.
Now we're going to learn about how fish swim.
Okay.
So, like some fish, like pike, for instance, just it's a simple reaction force model. Like they just push water away and push themselves forward.
Okay.
And that's why they have like a big tail, and that just moves a lot of mass of the water and moves itself forward. So they can accelerate really fast. What tuna do is they actually have really thin tails that's really high, and it's also from normal airplanes that's a lot more efficient. And what tuna do, and actually most ocean-going swimmers, because they don't need a lot of fast acceleration, they don't need a lot of obstacle avoidance. Is they actually swim really efficient, and they swim by using the turbulent flow around their body. So if you would have like a ball in water, we're gonna see it now as a ball. A ball in water.
The fish is now a ball.
Yeah, you get turbulent flow left and right, so it turns inwards on both sides around the body. And
if it's moving, right?
Yeah.
Or the water is flowing.
Or the water is flowing. And what tuna do, and most fish, is they use that turbulence to move their tail to left to right, and they change the direction of that turbulent flow. So both vertices on both sides move inwards, so they get kind of a jet behind the fish.
Wow. That's pretty good. I saw the picture that explains this really well on your thesis.
In the thesis. Go look that up if you're listening.
And because you get that kind of vortices on both sides, that's actually what keeps schooling fish together. And that's why schooling fish stay in the school. So on the side of the schooling fish, there are turbulent flow pushing, like vortices, pushing the fishes back into the school. So if a fish would come slightly outside, there's a vortices, there are vortices that push it back in. And the vortices inside the schooling fish are actually so strong that that fish can get caught in a schooling group and just keep going on for hundreds of years.
Wow, no way.
Disgusting.
I didn't know that.
I can't believe you've done this.
Wow.
And that's also why schooling fish are like ridiculously efficient.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
That I never knew that.
So when I started this project, like I was on the first days was like, oh my god, I need to make my fish swim in a school of fish.
It will be super efficient.
So cool.
Big brain.
For practical reasons, you could actually make a group of robotic fishes swim like ridiculously efficient.
Yeah. So if you make a group of underwater drones, that would go more efficient as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Or you could research schooling fish by putting in something really compliant and just slightly adding a little bit of energy and keep it going with a group of fish. If you can keep it inside the school,
you can study the fish.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Let it keep going with the school.
Damn.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just amazed.
Yeah, I'm amazed too. I didn't know that at all.
That's a fun fact. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I do have a bit more personal question. Because I'm interested in your aspiration for this project, because a lot of designers like fall in love with the problem and not especially with the solution. That's a good thing because, for example, when you want to make a renewable energy source, then you could, for example, be obsessed with wind turbines that create a lot of energy. But maybe wind turbines are not the perfect solution for this problem because for making new renewable energies.
What about solar cells?
What about solar cells? For example, it's just an example. Yeah. But did you fall in love with the problem?
Yeah. Or with the solution?
Or with the solution.
Yeah. The answer is definitely yes. But in this case, it was a research project. So we didn't really start from a problem. We started from technological advancements and then kind of looked at the possible applications. So it's a really mechanical engineering kind of way of looking at problems, and so there wasn't like a user need. We found user needs afterwards. So in that way, it's completely the whole project was completely tech focused and not user focused at all. So we did do those talks with, for instance, the marine defense and those kind of stakeholders to understand their needs and in what cases they would apply such a system, and for instance that it's really undetectable. But that wasn't the core from which we designed.
Just let's say, going into the note that you just made that it has to be undetectable, we actually have, I think, a quite stereotypical question about that. And for example, there's an MIT version of a robotic fish as well, which states, "Oh, we made it so good that it can just swim beside normal fish, and they won't even notice." When you look at your fish, you made it bright orange. Why did you make it bright orange if it has to be so undetectable and in the background?
Okay, there are a few reasons for this.
Okay, I'm very curious about those.
So start with reason one. We did a lot of tests in the water tank for speed measurements, and you want it to be very clearly possible, like seeable in the frames. So black or white would be all kind of an issue, because you also see reflections which are white and shadows which are black. So the bright orange just helped detecting the object in the frame. That's reason one. Reason two, everyone knows here that the bright orange filament is mine. And that's really easy. So if there's an orange part that has been printed, I can find it in the morning on my desk.
Finding Nemo.
It's perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's a real advantage.
Well, thank you for that clarification. I think it's way past time to wrap up.
Yeah, it's way past time. But
it was way too interesting. That was the problem. Don't want to be cheesy though, but I think we could just go on for another hour. But thank you, Sander, very much for being here. Thank you for all the interesting stuff. Thank you, let's say, at home, listening, or in the train listening. Thank you for listening in any case. Please give us some feedback if you want. Let us know what you think. Also, if you want to know more about Sander and his work, we'll put some links in the description of the YouTube video and in the episode description on any other media.
Thank you very much.
No problem.